The first alarm went off at 4:12 a.m. It wasn't loud enough to wake the entire complex, just a sharp, localized siren in Sector D of Black Ridge Penitentiary, one of the largest correctional facilities in Western Europe. Built to hold 3,800 inmates, it functioned like a small city sealed in concrete and razor wire. By 4:14 a.m., the siren was joined by shouting. By 4:16 a.m., the cameras in Sector D went dark. And by 4:18 a.m., Officer Grant Holloway was dead. His body was found beneath the upper tier railing, neck bent at an unnatural angle, radio crushed beneath him. At first glance, it looked like he'd fallen while responding to a fight. Accidents happened in mega prisons. When thousands of volatile personalities were stacked in concrete tiers, gravity became a constant threat. But this wasn't an accident. Chief Administrator Helena Voss arrived within 30 minutes. She had run Blackridge for 6 years, balancing numbers, policies, and pressure from the Ministry of Justice. Her strength wasn't physical, it was structural. She believed in systems, rotations, algorithms that predicted inmate aggression patterns, risk scores calculated weekly. Blackridge prided itself on efficiency, on control. This morning, control lay broken on a concrete floor. Lock down the entire D block, Voss ordered. No movement without my authorization. Security teams sealed off 600 inmates in their cells. The prison's internal network rerouted surveillance to backup nodes. Drones hovered along the perimeter walls. Mega prisons were not managed by force alone. They were managed by predictability, meal schedules staggered by gang affiliation, yard time split by behavioral score, conflict mediation sessions monitored by psychologists. Every movement was calculated, which meant this breach had been calculated too. Deputy Security Director Marcus Shaw stood over Holloway's body, jaw clenched. Shaw had 20 years in high-security facilities across the United States before transferring overseas. He understood riots. He understood spontaneous violence. But the camera outage disturbed him. 4 minutes of blackout, he said. Only in Sector D. Voss folded her arms. Hardware failure. Not localized like that. Forensics began combing the walkway. Holloway's knuckles were bruised, skin torn, defensive wounds. He had fought someone before going over the railing, but there was something else. A thin plastic card was tucked into his pocket, not prison issued. Blank, unmarked, like a hotel key without a logo. Where did this come from? Shaw muttered. Blackridge operated on biometric access, no plastic keys. No manual overrides except in emergency vaults. Unless someone reintroduced an older system. By sunrise, rumors spread faster than official reports. Inmates whispered that Sector D was opening up, that something big was coming, that Holloway had been warned. Prison intelligence officers intercepted scraps of coded conversation through monitored calls. Phase 1 is done. Population imbalance coming. Shift rotation compromised. The phrases didn't sound like gang chatter. They sounded procedural. Inside a mega prison, population management was everything. Authorities maintained order by dividing power structures. Leaders of rival groups were never housed on the same tier. Known agitators were reassigned weekly to disrupt influence networks. Informants were embedded quietly among trusted circles. It was like playing chess with thousands of pieces. Someone had just flipped the board. Holloway's background check revealed nothing alarming. Clean record. No disciplinary notes. But Shaw uncovered something interesting. Holloway had recently been assigned to a pilot program in Sector D, a behavioral analytics trial. The trial used AI-assisted monitoring to flag inmates likely to incite unrest. Movement patterns, speech cadence during visits, even heart rate fluctuations recorded through wearable devices during work assignments. It was controversial. Civil rights groups criticized it. Some staff distrusted it, but Voss had championed it. If we can predict violence, she had said during a press conference months earlier, we can prevent it. Now her strongest advocate for the program was dead. Shaw pulled up the flagged list from the algorithm's last report. 3 names glowed red. Darius Cole, serving life for organized armed robbery, known for influence among younger inmates. Yusuf Karim, former gang mediator, considered calm but strategic. Evan Morrow, convicted financial criminal, non-violent, high intelligence, minimal disciplinary record. Morrow's inclusion surprised Shaw. He doesn't fit, Shaw said. Voss leaned closer to the screen. The system flagged him as a pattern disruptor, meaning he moves between social groups, talks to everyone, a connector. Someone who could spread information quietly. Shaw dispatched teams to bring all three to isolation for questioning. Cole resisted, loud, aggressive. Kareem complied but said nothing. Morrow looked almost amused. "This is about Officer Holloway," Morrow said calmly when seated across from Shaw. "You think one of us pushed him?" "You tell me," Shaw replied. Morrow tilted his head. "You built a system to control thousands of men by predicting their behavior. What happens when the system itself becomes predictable?" Shaw's eyes narrowed. "You're speaking in riddles." "No," Morrow said softly. "I'm speaking in warnings." Midday brought worse news. The plastic card found in Holloway's pocket matched a decommissioned access protocol from 15 years ago, before biometric locks. Someone had reactivated a dormant layer of the prison's infrastructure. Meaning this wasn't spontaneous, it was archival. Someone with administrative knowledge. Boss felt the first crack in her certainty. "Pull staff access logs from the past 6 months," she ordered. The logs revealed repeated entries into the archival maintenance system. Accessed by a mid-level IT technician named Oliver Brandt. Brandt had resigned 2 weeks ago. No exit interview, no forwarding address. When authorities searched his workstation, they found something chilling. A schematic of Blackridge's population flow, annotated. Arrows marked where rival factions could intersect if yard schedules shifted by just 10 minutes. Notes highlighted, which cell blocks shared ventilation shafts large enough to pass contraband. Red circles identified blind spots between camera transitions. This wasn't about killing one officer. It was about stress testing the entire structure. Shaw looked at Boss. "If someone wanted to trigger a full-scale riot in a mega prison," he said quietly, "this is how they'd start." Boss swallowed hard. "But why only Sector D?" As if in answer, her phone buzzed. An internal alert. Sector B had just experienced a 3-minute camera glitch, and at the exact same time, two rival gang leaders who had never been scheduled for yard overlap were found in the same corridor, face to face. Security teams intervened before violence erupted, but the schedule showed no error. Someone had altered movement permissions in real time. The algorithm that managed 3,800 inmates had been compromised. Shaw's radio crackled. "Ma'am, you need to see this." They were led to the central server room, the brain of Blackridge. On the main monitor, beneath layers of code, someone had embedded a single message. Not graffiti, not a threat, a statement. "You don't manage populations, you manufacture obedience," and beneath it, a timer. Counting down from 48 hours, Boss felt the weight of thousands of locked doors pressing against her chest. Because if the system that controlled Blackridge failed completely, the prison wouldn't just riot, it would implode. And when Shaw traced the origin of the embedded code, his face went pale. It hadn't come from outside. It had been uploaded using the highest administrative clearance in the facility. Helena Voss's. The server room fell silent except for the low hum of cooling fans and the relentless ticking of the countdown clock. 47 hours 52 minutes and 13 seconds. Chief Administrator Helena Voss stared at her own credentials flashing on the access log. Her clearance had authorized the embedded code. Her digital signature had unlocked the population management system. "I didn't upload this," she said, her voice steady but thinner than usual. Deputy Security Director Marcus Shaw didn't respond immediately. He had spent his career reading faces in interrogation rooms, spotting micro-reactions that betrayed lies. Voss didn't look guilty. She looked blindsided. "Your credentials were used from an internal terminal," the IT supervisor said quietly, not remotely. "Which terminal?" Shaw asked. "Administrative Oversight Suite. Level 3. That was Voss's office corridor." Shaw turned to her. "Who has access to your clearance?" "No one," she replied. "It's biometric. Dual factor. Retinal and passcode." "Then someone cloned it," Shaw said. "Or you were logged in when they accessed it." Voss's mind raced. Meetings. Briefings. Late nights reviewing analytics reports. Had she stepped away from her desk? The countdown clock hit 47 hours 49 minutes and 2 seconds. Across Blackridge, 3,800 inmates remained locked behind reinforced steel. But tension had shifted. Word of the camera glitches spread through whispers, coded gestures, subtle nods during meal trays. Mega prisons were ecosystems. When one part trembled, the rest felt it. And Sector D wasn't done. At 2:30 p.m., an altercation broke out in the laundry facility. Two inmates who had never previously interacted attacked each other with the improvised weapons fashioned from metal shelving. Officers intervened quickly, preventing fatalities. But when Shaw reviewed the movement log, his stomach tightened. Both inmates had been reassigned to laundry duty that morning. By the algorithm, these men are from rival networks, Shaw said. They were never scheduled to work together. The system had placed them side by side. Stress testing population friction points, Voss murmured. The realization was sickening. Someone wasn't trying to spark a single riot. They were mapping reaction thresholds, measuring how quickly conflict ignited when small adjustments were made. It was behavioral warfare on a massive scale. Meanwhile, intelligence officers intercepted a coded message through monitored email traffic routed through approved legal channels. Stage 2 depends on compliance metrics. Compliance metrics, that was internal terminology used in staff training modules describing how effectively inmates followed schedule commands without resistance. Whoever was orchestrating this understood Blackridge from the inside out. Shaw ordered a sweep of all administrative terminals. Every keystroke, every login timestamp, every access badge scan, the results came back unsettling. Over the past month, Voss's credentials had been accessed during 3 late-night windows between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock a.m., times when she was documented off-site. Security camera footage outside the oversight suite during those hours showed nothing unusual, no forced entry, no suspicious loitering. Just routine night staff passing through. Check maintenance access, Shaw said suddenly. Mega prisons operated on layered security. While biometric locks protected main corridors, maintenance shafts and service elevators were accessed through separate clearance systems, often less scrutinized. When they pulled those logs, a pattern emerged. A single maintenance supervisor, Carl Reinhardt, had been present on every night Voss's credentials were used. Reinhardt had worked at Blackridge for 11 years. Unremarkable record, no disciplinary flags. And he had full knowledge of legacy infrastructure. Bring him in, Shaw ordered. Reinhardt sat in the interview room with grease-stained hands folded calmly on the table. He was in his late 40s, broad-shouldered, quiet. The kind of employee who blended into the background of massive institutions. You've been working late, Shaw began. Pipes don't follow office hours, Reinhardt replied. You accessed level 3 maintenance shafts 3 times this month. That's my job. During those times, administrative credentials were used to alter system protocols. Reinhardt shrugged slightly. I don't handle software. Voss watched him closely. No visible nerves, no defensive posture, just composure. Do you know Oliver Brandt? Shaw asked. Reinhardt's expression flickered, barely. He was IT, Reinhardt said. Left recently. You had lunch with him twice last month, Shaw said, sliding printed cafeteria logs across the table. Reinhardt didn't deny it. Big facility. People eat, but you were seen entering the archival wing together, Shaw pressed. That place hasn't been used in years. Exactly, Shaw said. Silence stretched. Reinhardt finally leaned back. You think I'm trying to start a riot? He asked calmly. I think, Shaw replied, you're trying to prove something. Reinhardt's gaze shifted to Voss. You run this place on numbers, he said quietly. Algorithms that predict who's dangerous, who's compliant, who deserves privileges. It's about safety, Voss snapped. No, Reinhardt said softly. It's about efficiency. The word hung in the air. You reduced 3,800 human beings to data points, he continued. And you call it order. Shaw leaned forward. And killing an officer proves what? Reinhardt's eyes hardened. I didn't kill anyone. Forensics returned new findings from Grant Holloway's autopsy. Cause of death, blunt force trauma from impact. But beneath his fingernails were skin cells, not matching any of the 3 red-flagged inmates. The DNA matched. Carl Reinhardt. The room seemed to shrink. Reinhardt stared at Shaw, then at Voss. He grabbed me, Reinhardt said quietly. I was responding to a service call in Sector D. He thought I didn't belong there. At 4 a.m. Shaw demanded. Reinhardt didn't answer. You had decommissioned access cards, Shaw continued. You knew the blind spots. You understood population flow. And you had motive, Voss added. You resented the system. Reinhardt's jaw tightened. You think this is about resentment? He asked. The countdown clock ticked to 31 hours 17 minutes and 44 seconds. You haven't stopped it, Shaw said suddenly. Reinhardt smiled faintly. You can't. Why? Voss demanded. Because it isn't designed to open doors, Reinhardt replied. It's designed to close them. Shaw felt a chill crawl up his spine. What does that mean? Reinhardt leaned forward, lowering his voice. In 12 hours, the algorithm will automatically recalibrate population assignments across the entire facility. Yard rotations, work details, meal groupings, all at once. That's standard, Voss said. Not like this, Reinhardt said. He looked almost regretful. You built a system that depends on gradual adjustment, small shifts, predictable change. But if you force every variable to change simultaneously, the implication hit Voss like a physical blow, total destabilization. Thousands of inmates suddenly moved outside established power hierarchies. Rival leaders crossing paths everywhere. Confusion, fear, opportunity, a chain reaction. It would look like spontaneous unrest, Reinhardt said softly. Like the population simply became unmanageable. Shaw's voice dropped. Why? Reinhardt's eyes flicked toward the ceiling cameras. Because mega prisons don't fail due to violence, he said. They fail when control becomes visible. The countdown hit 31 to 12:09, and at that exact moment, alarms erupted across 3 separate sectors simultaneously. Not fights, not assaults, cell doors refusing to open. Entire tiers locked beyond manual override. The system wasn't unleashing chaos, it was suffocating movement. Inmates began shouting from behind sealed doors. Medical staff reported they couldn't reach a diabetic prisoner in Sector A because the hallway locks had frozen. Shaw grabbed his radio. Override it, we can't, the IT supervisor shouted. The command requires administrator confirmation, and the system is rejecting her credentials. Voss felt her pulse hammering in her throat. Somehow, she had been locked out of her own prison. And on the central monitor, the embedded message changed. The timer disappeared, replaced by 3 new words. Now watch compliance. Across Blackridge, thousands of inmates were trapped in silence. And somewhere within the concrete maze, someone else, someone who had never sat in that interrogation room, was still controlling the shouting outcome. Began as a low vibration beneath the concrete. 3,000 voices, muffled behind sealed steel doors, rising in confusion. Officers ran tired to tear trying manual overrides that didn't respond. Keypads flashed red. Radios overlapped in frantic bursts of static. Blackridge had been designed to control motion, to regulate when inmates moved, where they stood, how long they spoke. Now motion had stopped completely, and still, no riot. Deputy Security Director Marcus Shaw stood in the central control room staring at the monitor that read, "Now watch compliance." Chief Administrator Helena Voss felt something colder than fear settle in her chest. "They're measuring reaction," she said quietly. Shaw turned to her. "Measuring what?" "How long before the population breaks?" Mega prisons didn't run on constant force. They ran on rhythm, wake-up bells, meal chimes, yard whistles. The structure created predictability, and predictability created psychological containment. Remove the rhythm, and anxiety spread like infection. 15 minutes into total lockdown, Sector A reported inmates kicking doors. 20 minutes in, Sector C reported coordinated chanting. 30 minutes in, silence. Shaw frowned. "That's not escalation, no," Voss said. "That's adaptation. Somewhere, someone was observing the data, heart rate spikes from wearable monitors, decibel readings from sound sensors, pressure fluctuations in ventilation ducts. This wasn't about destruction. It was a live experiment." Karl Reinhardt sat in holding, wrists cuffed, eyes closed as if resting. Reinhardt's only reply, "It's designed to prove something." Now Shaw returned to him. "The prison is frozen," Shaw said. "Medical access is compromised." "This stops now." Reinhardt opened his eyes slowly. "You're still thinking about force," he replied. "Tell me how to reverse it." Reinhardt studied him carefully. "The system isn't attacking, it's observing." "Observing what?" "Whether your inmates revolt or comply." Shaw's patience snapped. "You killed a man for this." Reinhardt's jaw tightened. "I didn't kill Holloway. You were there." "Yes," Reinhardt said. "Because he discovered what was happening before it was ready." "What was happening?" Shaw demanded. Reinhardt exhaled. "Oliver Brandt didn't leave," he said. Shaw's expression shifted. "What do you mean?" "He's still here." At that moment, The IT supervisor burst into the holding corridor. "We traced the active control node," she said breathlessly. "It's not coming from central servers." "Where?" Shaw demanded. "Sector F Psychological Evaluation Wing." Sector F housed long-term isolation units and behavioral assessment rooms, soundproofed, minimally staffed, separated from general population flow. Shaw grabbed a response team and sprinted through reinforced corridors. Emergency lights cast everything in sterile white. If Oliver Brandt was inside the prison, he had to be using a secure hardline connection, one that bypassed standard firewall architecture. When they reached Sector F, the outer security door opened without resistance. Inside, the wing was eerily calm. No shouting, no banging, just fluorescent hum. Room F12's door was closed. Shaw nodded to two officers. They breached it. Inside sat Oliver Brandt, calm, focused, surrounded by monitors displaying live biometric feeds, inmate stress graphs, audio spikes, movement tracking heat maps. Brandt didn't look up immediately. "You're early," he said finally. Shaw stepped forward. "Step away from the terminal." Brandt turned slowly, hands visible. "You see it, don't you?" he asked Voss, who had followed behind. "See what?" she demanded. He gestured toward the screens. Thousands of data lines scrolled in real time. "Compliance levels," he said. Shaw moved to pull the plug, but the IT supervisor shouted, "Don't, it's redundantly mirrored. If we interrupt incorrectly, we could permanently lock the entire grid." Voss stared at the biometric map. After 45 minutes of total lockdown, inmate aggression spikes had plateaued. After 60 minutes, they began to decline. The population wasn't rioting. They were adjusting. Brandt smiled faintly. "You built a predictive model," he said to Voss. "You believed you could forecast violence through data. I wanted to know something simpler." "What?" she asked coldly. "If control still works, when it's stripped of illusion." Shaw stepped closer. "You destabilized 3,800 people to run a theory." "I removed choice," Brandt replied. "No yard, no schedule, no explanation. Just confinement." He leaned back in his chair. "And they complied." Voss felt the implication settle like a weight. "You're saying," she said slowly, "that the prison doesn't need algorithmic manipulation. It doesn't need constant recalibration," Brandt corrected. "It needs belief." "Belief in what?" Shaw demanded. "In inevitability," Brandt said. He tapped one of the monitors. "They've spent years conditioned to accept restricted movement. So when total restriction occurs, they assume it's temporary, administrative, procedural." "And if it wasn't?" Voss asked quietly. Brandt's eyes darkened. "That's the point," Shaw ordered Brandt restrained. "Shut it down," he told IT. With Brandt's manual authentication, the lockdown sequence was reversed sector by sector. Doors disengaged, schedules restored, movement resumed cautiously. Medical staff reached the diabetic inmate in sector just in time. Yard rotations restarted under heavy supervision. To the outside world, Blackridge had experienced a temporary systems malfunction, but inside the control room, the truth felt heavier. Brandt was escorted past Voss. "You think this proves your system works," he said softly. She met his gaze. "It proves we can restore it." He shook his head faintly. "No. It proves they don't need to believe you're fair." He paused. "They only need to believe resistance is pointless." Weeks later, investigations concluded. Carl Reinhardt was charged in connection with Holloway's death after forensic reconstruction suggested a physical altercation that escalated tragically. Brandt faced multiple cybercrime and security breach charges. The official report described the event as an unauthorized systems experiment conducted by a former employee. The Ministry of Justice praised Blackridge for regaining control without mass violence. Headlines read, "Mega Prison Avoids Catastrophic Riot." But Voss knew the truth was more unsettling. Blackridge hadn't avoided collapse because of superior technology. It had avoided collapse because 3,800 inmates, conditioned by routine and structure, chose not to test the boundaries when they vanished. Order wasn't maintained by strength. It was maintained by expectation. Late one evening, long after the press coverage faded, Voss stood alone in the central control room. The biometric dashboards glowed softly. Compliance metrics were stable, predictive models recalibrated. But something felt different. Shaw entered quietly. "They're transferring you to oversight at the national level," he said. "Promotion." Voss didn't smile. "Do you believe it works?" she asked him. "The system," Shaw replied. "Yes." He considered carefully. "I believe people adapt faster than we expect," he said. Voss nodded slowly. After Shaw left, she opened an archived log file, the original embedded message. It had been erased from the main system, but a fragment remained in deep storage. "You don't manage populations. You manufacture obedience." She stared at it for a long time. Then she accessed the compliance data from the exact moment of total lockdown. For 63 minutes, 3,800 inmates had faced complete loss of agency. There had been no riot, no unified uprising, just gradual quiet. And that realization unsettled her more than chaos ever could. Because if obedience could be engineered so efficiently, then what, exactly, was freedom inside those walls? Outside Black Ridge, life continued. Inside, schedules resumed. But something invisible had shifted. The prison hadn't nearly fallen apart. It had proven how solid the architecture truly was. And that might have been the most disturbing discovery of all. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what happens when the next system decides to test itself.